All right, today we're cracking open an ancient text, the Book of Proverbs. But I want you to forget everything you think you know about it. We're not looking at this as a purely religious book. Nope. We're going to treat it like a political manual, an ancient blueprint for how to build a stable and prosperous nation. So let's dive in. So, what's the secret sauce? Really, what makes a nation thrive? Why does one country flourish while another just collapses into chaos? Is it all about economic policy, military might, diplomatic genius? Well, according to this ancient wisdom, the answer is something way more fundamental, and it's a lot closer to home. The core argument in Proverbs is surprisingly blunt. It basically says that the health of a nation is a direct reflection of the moral character of its leaders and its people. It's not about complex policies. It's about simple principles. It's not just about the laws on the books, but about the integrity of the people who write them and the people who have to live by them. So to really get our heads around this political philosophy, we're going to walk through 6 key ideas. We'll start with the big picture concept of wisdom for a nation, then dive into this fundamental choice between what it calls the 2 paths. From there, we'll see how the character of a ruler shapes literally everything, which then determines the people's fate. Then we get to the ultimate test, justice for the poor. And finally, we'll pull it all together to understand what makes up a society's true foundation. First up, this idea of wisdom for a nation. Now, this isn't some abstract philosophical head-scratcher. It was meant to be a super practical guide. The writers of Proverbs believed that for a society to actually work and last, it had to be built on these timeless principles that directly connect a person's integrity to the nation's success. Okay, so right at the heart of this entire worldview is a really basic choice between 2 paths, the path of the righteous and the path of the wicked. And this is not some simple good guys versus bad guys story, not by a long shot. It's actually a deep dive into 2 completely different ways of living and, more importantly, of governing. And let's get our terms straight here. When the text talks about righteousness, it doesn't mean what we might think of as religious piety. In this political context, it's a very practical, boots-on-the-ground kind of term. It means integrity. It means justice. It means moral uprightness in action. It's all about what you do, not just what you say you believe. And check this out, this verse perfectly illustrates the psychological difference between these 2 paths. Proverbs chapter 28, verse 1 paints this incredible picture. The righteous, the ones living with integrity, are bold as a lion, right? They've got nothing to hide, nothing to fear. But in stark contrast, the wicked flee when no one pursues. They live in this constant state of paranoia and fear, basically haunted by their own choices. This quote from Proverbs 28, verse 5, really gets to the core of it. The argument is that a life built on deceit and corruption actually clouds your judgment. It makes it impossible to see things clearly. But a life of integrity, what the text calls seeking the Lord, it leads to a kind of moral clarity, a deep understanding of how things really work. So let's see how this all applies specifically to the character of a ruler. According to Proverbs, a leader's personal character is never, ever a private matter. In fact, it's probably the single most important factor that shapes their entire government. The imagery here is just visceral. Proverbs 28, verse 15 does not pull any punches. A corrupt ruler isn't just a bad administrator, they're a predator, a roaring lion, a raging bear, just let loose on the most vulnerable people in society. The danger is presented as something very real and very immediate. And here's the flip side. While the wicked ruler is a predator doomed to fail, the just ruler finds security. Proverbs 29, verse 14 makes a powerful promise. A king who judges the poor with fairness, who's faithful to justice, his throne, his government, will be stable and long-lasting. The takeaway is simple. Justice creates stability. This is something we might call the trickle-down effect of character. Proverbs 29, verse 12 gives this sharp warning that if a leader surrounds themselves with lies, it doesn't just corrupt them, it infects their entire administration. As the verse says, all his servants become wicked. You see, falsehood at the top just poisons the whole system, all the way down. And that, of course, leads us right to the people's fate. The character of a nation's leadership doesn't just stay in the halls of power. It ripples out. It sets the tone, the entire emotional and social climate for the whole country. And the connection couldn't be more direct. Proverbs 29, verse 2, says flat out that when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked are in power, the people mourn. It gets even more intense over in Proverbs 28, verse 28, which says that when the wicked rise to power, people literally hide themselves. Good leadership creates public joy. Bad leadership creates public fear. It's as simple as that. So how do you really measure the character of a nation or its leaders? Well, Proverbs gives us a simple but incredibly powerful litmus test: justice for the poor. It argues a society's true moral compass is revealed in how it treats its most vulnerable members. And the text lays out some really clear signs of a just system. Proverbs 29, verse 7 says the righteous actively champion the cause of the poor. Chapter 28, verse 27 even links giving to the poor with your own prosperity. And then you have chapter 29, verse 4, which presents this stark choice for any ruler. You either establish your land with sound judgment, or you overthrow it by accepting bribes. Justice builds, corruption destroys. And this brings us to our final point, the big finish, a society's true foundation. What is it that truly makes a society last for generations? According to this ancient text, it's not just about passing the right laws or having a strong economy. It's about something much, much deeper. This famous line from Proverbs 29, verse 18, it really lays out the two pillars of a healthy society. First, you need a vision, a shared moral compass, a civic direction. Without that, the text says the people perish, or they cast off all restraint. And second, you need a commitment to keep the law, a just, predictable legal system. You absolutely need both, vision and law, working together. So when you boil it all down, what's the ultimate takeaway from this ancient guide to governance? It's this: a stable, prosperous society isn't built on policies alone. It's built on the moral foundation of its people, and, most critically, its leaders. That character, that is the bedrock that makes good policy and lasting security even possible. And that leaves us with a question that echoes from thousands of years ago right into our world today. If this text is right, if the moral character of our leaders and of ourselves is the true foundation of a healthy society, what does that mean for us right now? What does it mean for how we choose who leads us? And maybe just as important, how we choose to live our own lives. It's definitely something to think about.